but like you're doing it for ratings. Yeah, that's why I'm standing on this stage. Like yeah. Like, do you get satisfaction of doing a show like I do, like helping people? Like we did a show where this woman said, like, you arrested me and you changed my life. Do I get satisfaction in that? Hell yeah. But if that didn't rate, guess what? I would never do that story again.
Absolutely. What could we expect different on season 15? Like, how will season 15 be different of the Steve Wilkos Show?
Well, I think over the last couple of years, you've seen a shift into we're doing real crime stories, and sometimes it's even a story that we don't have to give a lie detector test on our show, but it's somebody that has spent 25 years in prison and they were unjustly accused or convicted, and we've done some stories like that this year, and just talking to these people about how they were able to overcome that and what their experience was like. So, but we also shifted to where we're working on unsolved crimes, things of that nature, and so the people really seem to eat that up. It falls really, like I said, neatly. And for me, being a police officer, former investigator, so I've always enjoyed that type of topic. Anyways, we still do, once in a while, do the cheating, the love thing, or whatever, or DNA. But our show is basically true crime now.
Do you find like one common theme with all this true crime? Like where someone's like, convicted incorrectly and they spend like a number of years. I mean,
well, we've done that show. We're getting a couple of those more this year. We had a few of those last year, and to me, it's always fascinating because, I don't know if I could last a week in prison, right? Maybe not a couple nights, but when you're facing, like this one guy, he was facing life without parole. How do you go in and succeed? And this one guy, he went in and he hit the library and did his own appeals, and he eventually got out. And when you think about something like that, I mean, I guess you do find it, but man, it's hard to imagine that you're going to life in prison and you're like, okay. I mean, I think I'd just crawl up and die.
I would think that I would do the same, but like you say, like your work ethic, maybe you'd be surprised at yourself. Maybe
right, because I think deep down in you would do something to say, okay, I'm going to try to get out of here. Whether it's carving a hole in the wall like Shawshank Redemption, or like this guy going to the library and getting appealed and getting yourself out.
Absolutely. Do you ever get starstruck? I mean, you've met so many people through your job.
There's a couple guys I've met in my life where I was really starstruck. One was Michael Jordan, when I met him, and I met him a few times, and even every time you almost feel like this guy's got like an aura around him, And then the other guy that I was totally starstruck, because I watched him since I was a little kid, was Muhammad Ali. I mean, I met him in Detroit at a baseball game, and the security came in and said, "Hey, Muhammad Ali's next door. Would you like to meet him?" I'm like, I thought they were messing around with me. Like, what's he doing at a Tigers game? And I went in, and there he was, and like he was talking to me, telling me jokes, and this guy was probably the most famous person on our planet. So yeah, those two guys, I was definitely starstruck.
What about the opposite, when people come up and are starstruck by you? Have you had any strange fan interactions?
Well, I'm always like, most people are really like level-headed when we're like, "Hey, Steve." Like one guy on the plane yesterday, we were getting off at the same time. He just starts talking to me like so conversationalist. I had to look at the guy, I'm like, do I know this guy? Because he's like, "Hey, Steve, were you in Cal?" And then he kept talking. I'm like, maybe I know this guy, and but he was just a fan. But then there are people that are over the top. They're like, I go, "You're not meeting Mick Jagger, man. Like, calm down. I'm just a talk show." So, but it is nice. And, I've ran into people that actually have like me tattooed on them. And I'm like, okay, you went over the line there. You shouldn't have done that.
You're like, how did this come about?
Yeah. Like, not a good waste, kind of a waste of money.
Well, one great byproduct, Jerry Springer, it didn't just give you your own show. It gave you, I mean, you got the girl. So
yeah.
How is your wife doing?
She's great, man. She had a long battle with breast cancer, and she's all done. She's all done with chemo, and it's kind of one of those things you got to wait for 5 years to like say all clear. But no, she's done amazing, and hopefully we're out of the woods.
I hope so too. Well,
Thank
you
you.
basically are married to the boss. She's
Yeah.
the exec. So how does that work when, sometimes the talent and the executive producer don't, they have different visions of what to do in a situation.
Yeah, that's true. But I've been smart enough to know that I'm not a TV producer. And I learned that lesson on Springer, early days. Like, producers work really hard to put the show together. And there was times I tried to inject like what I thought. And then I realized I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So, and there was times like there was stories I didn't want to do, right? Like, I don't want to do that. My wife's like, just do it. You'll look good. And she's right. So now that was probably the first 5 or 6 or 7 years that I bucked heads. Then I learned just do what she wants, and things will work out. And so that's been a good game plan for me for the last 8 years.
You're just like, yes.
Yeah. And there's times like I got to bite my tongue because I don't want to do it, but I'm just like, just get it done.
You're like, you're the EP, best.
Yeah. And I'm just like, the time it takes that you're going to argue, and then I'm going to lose anyways. I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm like, just get it over with.
That makes sense. Well, I'm excited for season 15 of the Steve Wilkos Show. Is there anything else I didn't cover here today which you would like to discuss? I always like to give people a chance at the end.
And listen, and Sarah could tell you, I'm not just telling you this. I think you did an amazing job with this interview, because I think you got things out of me that a lot of people don't ask about. You really brought up some things that you steered in a really good direction. So my kudos to you, because like I said, I'm not very impressed all the time when I do these interviews, but I've been impressed with this one.
Well, I know that you don't just say things to say them. So
Right.
Coming from you, that means a lot, because you would tell me if you hated it and you weren't impressed with me.
I wouldn't say anything. I'd just be like, okay, that's it. But I think what makes a good interviewer is that you get things out different that people haven't heard before. And that's what makes it interesting. Because like I said, there's so many interviews I do where people, they don't do their homework. They don't, like, you even knew what's going on about my wife, which, not a lot of people ask about that. So it's just, it's a nice thing. And two, I think it makes for a good interview when you get things out. And even talking about like the Howard Stern thing, when you said, who impresses me? Nobody except for him. And I don't want to be so mean, like, I don't appreciate Jerry, but like, Howard Stern's way up here above us all. And, so I tell you, you did a great job.
Well, I really appreciate it. You can come back any day that you would like. So where can everyone find you online if they'd like to follow you?
SteveWilkos.com. And, if they need to find out where the show airs, because we're syndicated all over, but there's, Steve Wilkos on Facebook and everywhere else. So real easy to find, and, hope everybody is enjoying this 15th season.
I love it. I can't wait to watch it. And again, the door is open anytime you want. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take care. Have a great day.